The film begins by showing a young girl on the subway with her mom. At that time, while they wait to reach their stop, the girl looks at other women and guesses what plastic surgeries they've had. This girl is going to have plastic surgery herself and says goodbye to her mom at the hospital before going into the operating room. We can't see her face, but we know her name is Kang Mi Rae. At that moment, Mi Rae decided to have plastic surgery because when she was younger, she was often bullied and called ugly. Her body was a bit bigger than others, and boys would pick on her a lot. She got tired of the insults and, as she grew older, she lost weight and became a smart and successful student. But even after losing weight, people still made fun of Mi Rae because of her face. Not only did her friends tease her, but even the boys she liked did too. Mi Rae just wanted to live a normal life, but she couldn't because of how she looked. After the surgery, Mi Rae's operation was a success. She became prettier, and many things in her life started to change. She noticed that not only did her face look different, but people treated her differently too. She rated her new face 79 out of 100. Meanwhile, a man is talking with a taxi driver about the driver's daughter. It turns out the taxi driver is Mi Rae's father. He is very proud of Mi Rae and even says she is as pretty as famous actresses like Kim Go-eun and Kim Tae-hee. The man keeps looking at a picture of Mi Rae that her dad has in the car, but he doesn't say anything out of respect. After having a tough time in high school, Mi Rae is now starting at a new university. It's orientation day, and she meets up with her best friend, Eunwoo, whom she first met in middle school. To celebrate, they take lots of pictures around campus. Everything seems great until Mi Rae notices people staring at her, which makes her nervous. She wonders if they don't think she's beautiful, but then a man comes up to her and asks for her phone number. This is new for Mi Rae, and she tells the man she doesn't have a phone number, turning him down. The man leaves embarrassed, and Mi Rae feels confused. Eunwoo then tells Mi Rae to be confident with her new face. Even though it might take some time, Mi Rae will eventually learn to feel comfortable in her own skin. Soon after, Mi Rae went to pick up her student ID and met other students from the chemistry department. She started silently rating the other female students based on their looks and whether she thought they had plastic surgery. While doing this, she met some new students who weren't sure if she was really new like them. There, Mi Rae had to convince them that she was indeed a new student just like them. Then, another girl came over and introduced herself to the group. Her name was Eunwoo, and Mi Rae thought she was incredibly beautiful, like a goddess, giving her a perfect score of 100 out of 100. At the same time, a guy named Do Kyung Suk, who was also studying chemistry, caught everyone's attention. Soon, they all moved to another hall to watch a welcome video featuring messages from alumni, including the actress Lee Young-ae. While most students focused on the video, some were distracted, admiring the good-looking students in the room. They are Mi Rae, Kyung Suk, and Suah. After the video, all the students in the chemistry major moved to the next part of the orientation. On the way, they started chatting and getting to know each other better. The guys noticed Suah, while Mi Rae and her friends were drawn to Kyung Suk, and they all began to mingle and make new friends. After the upperclassmen introduced themselves, it was the new students' turn. At that time, Kyung Suk, Suah, and Mi Rae received a lot of cheers and everyone seemed really interested in them. Mi Rae even wondered if the Kyung Suk she was seeing was the same one she knew from years ago. The group then split into smaller teams and started sharing drinks. Suah was friendly and caring towards her friends, while Kyung Suk seemed to just enjoy his drink with his group. Mi Rae sat quietly, watching Kyung Suk from a distance. She felt awkward and wasn't used to getting so many compliments, which was new to her. Two seniors, Kim Chunwoo and Song Chung-ho, joined their group. At that time, Chunwoo showed interest in Mi Rae, but she was shy about approaching him. The teams played various games to bond. Thanks to Mi Rae's smart thinking, her team made it to the top two. To decide the winner, each of the top teams had to pick a leader. Mi Rae was chosen as the leader for her team, but she felt uneasy being in the spotlight. With some encouraging words from Eunwoo, Mi Rae accepted the role of team leader. It was time for Mi Rae's performance. Unlike Suah, who sang, Mi Rae danced along with the song. Her energetic dancing was met with lots of cheers and excitement from the audience, and they really enjoyed her performance. Watching her, Kyung Suk started to remember his own memories from middle school. Although Mi Rae was initially nervous about being in the spotlight, she gradually became more comfortable. This was her chance to show everyone her dancing skills, which she had been practicing alone for years, and she wanted to be appreciated just like anyone else. Feeling a bit overwhelmed and slightly tipsy, Mi Rae stepped outside to get some fresh air. Then, she called her mom and ended up crying from relief because people really liked her performance and it was something new for her. At that time, she felt really positive after the call. Soon after, Kyung Suk also stepped outside for some fresh air. On his way, Suwa tried to compliment him, but he wasn't interested and continued outside. Meanwhile, Mi Rae stayed outside to avoid drinking more. When Mi Rae saw Kyung Suk coming out, she quickly hid and then sat on the stairs to take a video call from her dad. However, her dad didn't recognize her because of her new look, and she had to pretend to be someone else to avoid questions. Holding her phone, Mi Rae told this small lie to avoid making her dad suspicious. After the video call, Mi Rae's dad told his wife about it. He thought it was weird that a girl who looked different but sounded exactly like Mi Rae was on the phone. Mi Rae's mom suggested that maybe Mi Rae just looked a bit different because she always wanted double eyelid surgery since she was young. But Mi Rae's dad is really against plastic surgery and doesn't want Mi Rae to change her face. Mi Rae's mom got scared because Mi Rae had the surgery without telling her dad. Meanwhile, Mi Rae was with Eunwoo, a senior who likes her. There, he suggested that Mi Rae should rest in a nearby room. Shortly after, Mi Rae walked ahead, not realizing Eunwoo was following her until he stepped in front to show her the room. At that time, Kyung Suk was nearby, drinking a beer and watching them go. Soon after, Eunwoo went into the room first, and Mi Rae followed but kept her distance. She started to feel uneasy and tried to leave, but Eunwoo blocked the door and tried to lock it. Just then, Kyung Suk opened the door, causing Eunwoo to fall down. At that moment, Kyung Suk had interrupted what could have been a dangerous situation, and Eunwoo left the room quickly, pretending nothing was wrong. After Eunwoo left, Kyung Suk asked Mi Rae if she was okay, but she was still very shaken by what had just happened. When Mi Rae walked out, Kyung Suk followed her and they ended up facing each other, looking into each other's eyes. Then, Kyung Suk asked if she was the same Mi Rae who went to the same school as him because she had the same name as someone he remembered from high school, and he wanted to confirm if it was her. Upon hearing that, Mi Rae was caught off guard and didn't know what to say. It turned out Kyung Suk was indeed her friend from middle school, someone she had admired for a long time. Back then, Kyung Suk was known as handsome and cool, and everyone always complimented his looks. There, Mi Rae thought Kyung Suk's life must be great because he always got so much attention. But what many people didn't know was that Kyung Suk's life wasn't as perfect as it seemed. He was hiding his own troubles. Turns out his parents had split up, and he lived only with his dad and younger sister. Besides that, Kyung Suk's dad didn't support him studying chemistry, but he pursued it anyway because he got accepted into the program. His secret motive was to learn more about his mom, who had studied the same subject. As the day goes by, Mi Rae's life is now pretty normal, filled with laughter and fun with her friends. She's getting a lot of attention, especially from Eunwoo, who has a big crush on her. He keeps telling her how he feels, and she's surprised that someone likes her romantically for the first time. It all still feels very new and strange to her. Meanwhile, Suwa is keeping a close eye on Mi Rae. She even talks to the guys who like Mi Rae, including Eunwoo, trying to make them lose interest in Mi Rae. When Mi Rae came back from the bathroom, she planned to tell Eunwoo that she didn't want to date him, but before she could, Eunwoo changed his mind and asked her to forget everything he had said about liking her. When Eunwoo was about to leave, he tripped over Kyung Suk's foot, which Kyung Suk had put out on purpose. This made Eunwoo mad and caused a scene in the cafeteria. There, Eunwoo tried to hit Kyung Suk a few times, but he kept missing, which made him the center of attention and not in a good way. Things got even more out of hand when Eunwoo picked up a chair to hit Kyung Suk. Mi Rae intervened, stopping him and accidentally, which makes her fall into Kyung Suk's arms. From a distance, Suwa watched everything that happened. She then went over to Mi Rae to check if she was okay. Seeing her caring actions, Mi Rae started to think that Suwa was a truly good friend. Shortly after, Suwa invited her to join their class group and work together on research projects. In class, Suwa showed a lot of interest in Kyung Suk and even volunteered to be the secretary when he was chosen as the group leader. After class, Kyung Suk wanted to talk to Mi Rae to return a bottle of perfume she had dropped earlier in the cafeteria. Suddenly, Mi Rae remembered a time in middle school when Kyung Suk had asked about the perfume she used. Back then, She was teased a lot and asked uncomfortable questions about her looks. Now, Mi Rae felt nervous that Kyung Suk might realize she was the same person from middle school. She begged him to keep her past a secret. Later on, Mi Rae's parents visited to celebrate her being accepted into university. However, her dad didn't recognize her because he didn't know she had had plastic surgery. He only recognized her voice. Mi Rae felt sad and guilty for keeping the surgery a secret, especially since her dad was against it. Her dad was so upset that he didn't come home and ignored Mi Rae's calls when she tried to check on him. After the ceremony, there was an evening party with the seniors to help everyone get to know each other better. Mi Rae joined in on the games and even shared some drinks with the seniors. During the party, Kyung Suk kept an eye on Mi Rae and discreetly finished her drinks to prevent her from drinking too much. At that time, Soo-ah noticed what Kyung Suk was doing and signaled him to follow her lead, but he ignored her. When Soo-ah brought up the topic of plastic surgery, Kyung Suk told her off for discussing unnecessary things, which made her cry. This upset Eunwoo, and he got angry at Kyung Suk, causing a commotion at the party. On the other hand, Eunwoo, who was seeking attention, kept trying to get close to Soo-ah and asked her to be his girlfriend, but Soo-ah just wanted to be friends. Frustrated, he threw a fit. He then went over to Mi Rae and made fun of her for having plastic surgery. He even blamed her for Soo-ah rejecting him. Upon hearing that, Mi Rae, not one to back down, confronted Eunwoo and called him out for his rude comments. As a result of the chaos, Mi Rae's secret about having plastic surgery came out, and the positive image she had at the beginning of college started to change. She noticed that her college friends were now looking at her skeptically. Despite this, Kyung Suk stood by her side to support her. After what happened last night, Eunwoo started gathering all the younger students on the field, planning to take out his anger on them. He was really mad at Mi Rae, but he ended up making all the juniors do push-ups even though they didn't know why they were being punished. Soon after, the student leader stepped in and stopped Eunwoo from making everyone do push-ups, but Eunwoo led them to the bathroom instead. It was becoming obvious that he was just using Mi Rae as an excuse to lash out. Meanwhile, Mi Rae, feeling like she was being unfairly targeted as part of a game by the seniors, confronted Eunwoo and asked what she had done wrong. This confrontation only made Eunwoo angrier, and he pushed her to the ground. Eunwoo also falsely accused Mi Rae of spreading rude nicknames about him, even though it was actually Soo-ah who had started telling everyone about the nickname a senior had given her. When Eunwoo was about to hit Mi Rae, all her friends wanted to help her but were too scared to speak up when Eunwoo was yelling. Suddenly, Kyung Suk stepped in and knocked him out. After this incident, Eunwoo was called by Woo Young, who was a teaching assistant. There, Eunwoo confessed that Eunwoo had forced her to gather all her classmates. After hearing this, Woo Young took immediate action and sternly warned Eunwoo not to bother the juniors anymore. Woo Young even told Eunwoo to stop threatening the younger students if he cared about his own future. The next day, Eunwoo and Chungboon met Mi Rae before class because they wanted to apologize for not standing up to Eunwoo when he was being mean. Mi Rae felt happy because it showed that Eunwoo and Chungboon really cared about her. At the same time, Soo-ah came over to apologize to Mi Rae for what happened the previous day. She also started asking about Mi Rae's relationship with Kyung Suk. There, Soo-ah had noticed that Kyung Suk often helped Mi Rae and was there for her during tough times, which made her think that Kyung Suk might have feelings for Mi Rae. Soo-ah kept asking questions about Mi Rae and Kyung Suk until Mi Rae accidentally revealed that they had been friends in middle school, thinking Soo-ah was a trustworthy friend. However, she ended up telling other people about Mi Rae and Kyung Suk's past friendship. This news quickly spread, and Ji-yo heard about it and confronted Kyung Suk, which really surprised him. Meanwhile, Chungboon went back to the bar where the student admissions party was held. She wanted to get a part-time job there to be close to the owner, but the owner turned her down because he was more interested in Soo-ah. The owner then asked Chungboon to invite Soo-ah to apply for a job at the bar. Even though she was disappointed, Chungboon delivered the message, and the next day Soo-ah came to apply for the job. Elsewhere, after class, Mi Rae asked Kyung Suk to have a talk. She told Kyung Suk that he should stop defending her all the time. At that time, Kyung Suk got upset because Mi Rae had plastic surgery, thinking she did it just because she wasn't confident with how she looked before. Despite this, Mi Rae didn't want to stay mad at Kyung Suk since he had stood up for her. To make up, Mi Rae invited Kyung Suk to go eat together. At that time, she wanted to eat meat, but she accidentally ordered the wrong dish. Kyung Suk showed he cared about her by eating the wrong order with her, and then reordering the food that Mi Rae really wanted. During a lab class, Mi Rae was working with Kyung Suk and Suah. There, Mi Rae accidentally hurt her hand from the heat, and Suah tried to help. But when Mi Rae passed a tube to Suah, some chemical liquid splashed on her. Suah seemed to want to get Kyung Suk's attention, but he was more focused on helping Mi Rae. On the other hand, Woo Young, who was a teaching assistant, also showed concern for Mi Rae, especially when she almost grabbed a broken tube. There, Mi Rae noticed that Suah was acting a bit odd, and she was sure she had handed the tube to Suah safely. She didn't expect it to spill and cause an injury. While taking Suah to the bathroom to clean up, Suah didn't want to show her wound in front of others. It turned out her leg wasn't really hurt, and she was just pretending to get attention. The next day, Mi Rae's family situation was still tough. Her dad wouldn't come home even though her mom kept apologizing, and her mom didn't want Mi Rae to worry about their problems. Unlike Mi Rae, Kyung Suk always had to show up at events hosted by his dad, who was a prominent figure in South Korea. Even if Kyung Suk didn't want to, he wanted to help maintain his family's good image. Amid all this, Mi Rae had a bit of good news. She won tickets to a perfume collection event. At the event, she ran into Woo Young, who was also invited by the founder of the perfume. After attending the event, Mi Rae got to know the founder of the perfume company, who turned out to be Kyung Suk's mom, Mrs. Ye Sung. There, Mi Rae shared that her interest in studying chemistry was sparked by her passion for perfume. The two hit it off and ended up going to a bar together, where they became friends and exchanged phone numbers. Later that night, Kyung Suk showed up at the bar because a friend needed help during a busy shift. He was shocked to see his mom hanging out with Mi Rae and quickly left the bar because he didn't want to be around his mom. This left Mi Rae puzzled by Kyung Suk's behavior. Mrs. Ye Sung then told Mi Rae that Kyung Suk was her son, which really surprised Mi Rae. Meanwhile, Suah and Ji-yo got their hands on the Jaryong Middle School yearbook, looking to see what Mi Rae looked like before her plastic surgery. However, they couldn't find any individual or group photos of her, which made them even more curious about her past appearance. Even after work, Suah kept trying to dig up more about Mi Rae's middle school days through the school's website. The next day, Kyung Suk met up with Mi Rae and asked to talk. He wanted her to keep what happened the previous night a secret. Kyung Suk didn't fully trust Mi Rae because he had already shared a secret with Suah. Meanwhile, Chong Boon kept an eye on the bar owner by visiting the bar. She felt annoyed seeing him interact with a female employee and showed her jealousy by playing pranks on the employee. Later, Mi Rae and her friend Yoonjung were shopping for ingredients to make perfume. At that time, Mi Rae planned to sell the perfume to help her mom pay off the bill for her plastic surgery. While hanging out, Mi Rae got a call from Mrs. Ye Sung, who needed her help for reasons that weren't clear yet. After leaving the shop, Mi Rae felt like someone was following her on her way home. She eventually confronted the follower, and at the police station, a young boy explained he thought Mi Rae was a celebrity, which is why he followed her out of curiosity. Soon after, Mi Rae's dad showed up at the police station. He admitted that he had asked the boy to follow Mi Rae home because he wanted to make sure she was safe. After finding out that Mi Rae had surgery, things became a bit awkward between her and her dad. She was really moved when she realized her dad had always tried to do his best for her. She kept trying to make it up to him, sending him photos to cheer him on as he went to work. Gradually, her dad began to forgive and forget the past, wanting to make peace with his daughter. The campus festival was coming up right after the exams. The student leaders in the chemistry department met to plan how to make their booth popular. They decided to use the attractiveness of some of the well-known students to draw in visitors. They chose Suah, Mi Rae, Ji-yo, and Kyung Suk to help run the booth during the festival. Eunwoo was tasked with meeting these four and asking them to participate. When Eunwoo approached Kyung Suk to join the festival, he was the first person she asked, but he declined to participate. However, Suah and Ji-yo were happy to help make their booth lively. Eunwoo was actually frustrated with a male senior because he only focused on using his looks to attract people, which made her feel uncomfortable about asking Mi Rae to join. When Mi Rae heard this, she felt pressured. She had initially wanted to join the festival to sell her handmade aromatherapy candles, but felt conflicted because the seniors had directly asked her. Later, Suah and Ji-yo came over to sit with Mi Rae. Suah encouraged Mi Rae to join and help Eunwoo make the chemistry major's booth a success. Mi Rae agreed to help. While they were talking, Mi Rae got distracted when she saw Kyung Suk arriving. Suwa noticed Mi Rae's attention shift and followed her gaze to Kyung Suk. Suwa then brought up the topic of how close Mi Rae and Kyung Suk seemed to be. After class, Mi Rae invited Kyung Suk out for drinks. At that time, Suwa noticed this too. Meanwhile, at the bar, Mi Rae and Kyung Suk were spending time alone. The real reason she invited him out was because Mrs. Yesung had asked her to convince Kyung Suk to meet and talk with her. Turns out Mrs. Yesung had been separated from her children for 10 years following her divorce from Mr. Sungwon, who took the children and prevented them from seeing their mother. Turns out, Kyung Suk has grown to really dislike his mother because of the stories his father told him. When Mi Rae asked why he didn't want to meet Mrs. Yesung, Kyung Suk got very angry. Mi Rae shared her own difficulties with her dad, hoping it would make Kyung Suk think about the impact of conflicts between parents and children. However, this didn't change Kyung Suk's feelings, cause he still harbored resentment towards his mother who had disappeared from his life. Then, Mi Rae and Kyung Suk changed the subject to talk about Mi Rae's tough middle school years. She explained that she had plastic surgery to feel as pretty as other girls. Mi Rae recalled a time when Kyung Suk laughed at her at the bus stop, which she thought was because of her looks. There, Kyung Suk quickly clarified this misunderstanding, explaining that he had actually laughed at a funny dance Mi Rae was doing, not her appearance. Mi Rae had been very sensitive back then due to frequent teasing and had scolded him without asking why he laughed. Kyung Suk added that he laughed because the perfume Mi Rae was wearing reminded him of his mother, who used to spray too much perfume on herself, which bothered him as a child. Despite their past misunderstandings, Mi Rae believed Mrs. Yesung was a good person and couldn't have been as bad as Kyung Suk thought. After their conversation, Mi Rae went home and told Mrs. Yesung that she was unable to convince Kyung Suk to meet her, but Mrs. Yesung was understanding about the situation. Turns out Kyung Suk has a younger sister named Kyung Hee whom he really cares about. He even met with his father to ask him not to send Kyung Hee abroad for her studies. Kyung Suk is much smarter and got into a top university, while Kyung Hee struggles in school and often gets poor grades. Mr. Sungwon wants to send her abroad to improve her image and protect his own reputation since he doesn't want people to think poorly of him because of his daughter's grades. Meanwhile, Suwa is working as a cashier at a cafe. One day, 3 guys came in, and one of them, Young Chul, wanted to get to know her better after interacting with her on Instagram. At that time, Young Chul asked to meet Suwa and spend some time together. Suwa invited him to visit her department's booth at the campus festival instead, and Young Chul was excited because it seemed like Suwa was interested in him. The next day, Woo Young was apartment hunting and ran into Yoon Jung, who knew the area well and offered to help him find a nice place to live. Woo Young also invited Mi Rae to join them for drinks at Eugene bar. While they were there, Kyung Suk unexpectedly showed up. Although it seemed like he was there to hang out, his real reason was to meet Eugene. The next day, the day of the campus festival finally arrived. All the students were busy setting up their booths and promoting their departments. The students who were chosen to serve the visitors were given uniforms selected by Chung Ho, which many protested because the uniforms were too revealing and the skirts were too short. Despite their discomfort, they wore the uniforms to help make their event successful. The chemistry department's booth was extremely busy with Suwa, Mi Rae, and Ji-yo working hard to serve all the visitors. Suddenly, a group of guys came over and asked Mi Rae for an empty seat. Mi Rae was shocked to see Young Chul among them at her booth. Soon after, Suwa joined them and introduced herself to Young Chul. Mi Rae quickly left when she heard this. Young Chul thought the name Kang Mi Rae sounded familiar, recalling a friend from middle school with the same name. At that time, Mi Rae felt uncomfortable with Young Chul's attention and made up an excuse that she was feeling sick and needed to rest. She said she needed to find someone else to take over her duties at the booth. Hearing this, Kyung Suk immediately volunteered to help. When Mi Rae was about to leave the festival, Suwa stopped her and insisted she stay to hang out with Young Chul. Suwa did this because she knew Mi Rae and Young Chul had been friends in middle school. Young Chul laughed and seemed shocked by how much Mi Rae had changed since then. He brought up uncomfortable memories from her past, ignoring how this might make her feel. Mi Rae asked him to stop talking and to leave her alone. Kyung Suk, who witnessed the whole thing, got very upset and called Young Chul trash and a loser. After Mi Rae left the booth, Suwa went to find her, hoping to help her calm down. There, Suwa explained that her view of Mi Rae had changed now that she knew Mi Rae had surgery to look more beautiful. Meanwhile, Yoonjung confronted Young Chul after hearing that he had embarrassed Mi Rae again. There, Young Chul explained that he was only at the booth because Suwa invited him, and he hadn't expected Mi Rae to be there. He showed his Instagram interactions with Suwa to prove that they were just friends. After coming back from campus, Mi Rae got a call from Mrs. Yesung, who thanked her for a wonderfully scented candle she had sent. There, Mi Rae apologized for not being able to convince Kyung Suk to meet with her, and she also shared that she had undergone plastic surgery because of a painful past. Mi Rae revealed that they had actually met once before on a bridge when she was feeling so low due to being mocked by her peers that she considered ending her life. Fortunately, Mrs. Yesung was there and prevented her from making a tragic decision. The next day, as Mi Rae headed towards the chemistry department's booth, a girl running another booth stopped them to invite them to join a blind date game show. As the girl looked for another participant, Kyung Suk showed up and quickly chose Mi Rae as his partner. At that time, Suwa watched all of this closely. Mi Rae was so overwhelmed by everything happening around her that she accidentally knocked over a glass of water, spilling it on her clothes. She decided to go change, and both Kyung Suk and Suwa offered to walk with her to the organization room. During this time, Mi Rae remembered what Yoonjung had told her about Suwa intentionally inviting Young Chul to the booth to embarrass her. Mi Rae then decided to go with Kyung Suk to the organization room, leaving Suwa visibly annoyed and no longer interested in participating in the game. As they were about to leave, Kyung Suk realized he had left his cell phone behind. Soon after, Kyung Suk and Mi Rae went to the organization room to find a change of clothes for Mi Rae, but they ended up getting locked in from the outside. Luckily, Tae-hee and Tae-young came and unlocked the door for them. Tae-hee and Tae-young were surprised to see Mi Rae and Kyung Suk together, which made Mi Rae feel embarrassed. She quickly left the room when the fireworks started, captivating everyone with their sparkle. There, Suwa noticed how close Mi Rae and Kyung Suk were during the fireworks display. Meanwhile, Ji-yo was with Suwa when Kyung Suk's cell phone, which he had left behind, received a message. Soon after, Ji-yo checked it and saw a message showing Kyung Suk's father, Mr. Sung-won, who was in a campaign for an election. Then, Ji-yo told Suwa about it. When Suwa got home, she started looking into Kyung Suk's family background. During her search, she discovered some shocking details about the divorce of his parents. At home, Kyung-hee found out that her computer taken away by her dad because she came in last in her class. When Kyung Suk heard about this, he quickly went to comfort his sister. This reminded him of a time when he was young and cried after being scolded by his father for being weak. On the other hand, Mrs. Yesung defended him, saying it was okay for boys to cry and that she didn't want Kyung Suk to grow up to be someone who bullies weaker people. The next day, news about Kyung Suk's family, who are well known, started spreading around campus. People were talking about his mom, who is the CEO of a perfume company. During class, Suwa took Kyung Suk's cell phone from Ji-yo, who had planned to return it to him. At class, Kyung Suk caught Suwa with his phone and scolded her for looking through it without permission. After class, Ji-yo explained to Kyung Suk that she was the one who had accidentally spread the news about his family. Kyung Suk then apologized to Suwa, who shared her own family story, revealing that she no longer had a mother. It turned out Suwa had been trying to get closer to Kyung Suk and gain his attention by engaging in these actions. In a different place, Woo Young took Mi Rae to meet Yesung. When they arrived, they found out that Mrs. Yesung had been hospitalized. At the hospital, they learned from Director So-yoon, a close friend of Mrs. Yesung, that she was unconscious because she had eaten spoiled food. This happened because her sense of smell had been damaged in an accident. At that moment, Mi Rae and Woo Young were both surprised and impressed to hear that Mrs. Yesung had successfully developed a popular perfume despite losing her sense of smell. Then, Mi Rae stayed to look after Mrs. Yesung by herself. Soon after, she decided to tell Kyung Suk that his mother was in the hospital and hoped he would visit her. However, by the time Mi Rae left the hospital, Kyung Suk had not shown up. At that time, Mrs. Yesung felt guilty for causing so much trouble for others because of her hospitalization. There, Director So-yoon suggested that she hire an assistant to take care of her. Meanwhile, Kyung Suk arrived at the hospital and saw his mother from outside her room. He recalled his father's accusations that his mother had left the family because she had been unfaithful. Mrs. Yesung noticed Kyung Suk, and he finally went in to see her. There, Mrs. Yesung expressed regret over prioritizing her career over her family when she was younger. She had wanted to explore her potential as a businesswoman, But Mr. Sungwon had always opposed her ambitions because it took her away from family time. She felt guilty for losing her husband's trust, which had ruined their marriage. Mrs. Yesung also revealed that an accident had taken away her sense of smell, ending her career as a perfume researcher. Meanwhile, Mr. Sungwon was worried about Kyung Suk, who had been secretly meeting his mother. He didn't want Kyung Suk, whom he had raised since childhood, to be misled by Mrs. Yesung's words. After finding out that Kyung Suk had returned from the hospital, Mr. Sungwon asked him to have a talk. He tried to convince Kyung Suk that Mrs. Yesung had poisoned his mind against him. Upon hearing that, Kyung Suk immediately disagreed, saying that what his father believed wasn't true. He then told Mrs. Yesung the real situation. This confrontation led Mr. Sungwon to admit that he was the one who caused his wife's loss of smell. He had done this in anger over her prioritizing her career over her family. This revelation helped Kyung Suk understand why his mother always seemed to overuse perfume, because she was just trying to smell the perfumes she created but couldn't because of her damaged sense of smell. On a different note, Mi Rae's life is filled with love from her parents. She has always been the pride of her family. Her mother continues to take pictures of her because she is so proud. However, her father also feels sadness. He regrets not being there for his daughter during her plastic surgery and mourns not being able to see Mi Rae's original face one last time. The next day, Suah was on her way out to buy something at the store when she unfortunately ran into Yoon. When Yoon greeted her, Suah started lying to hide who she really was. Meanwhile, after Kyung Suk ran away from home, Mr. Sungwon canceled his credit card. This left Kyung Suk without money, so he ended up staying at Eugene bar for several days. During this time, Kyung Suk remembered he needed to go to Woo Young's housewarming party. He decided to borrow Eugene's TV to give to Woo Young as a housewarming gift. Soon after, Mi Rae and Yoonjung got to Woo Young's house first. At that time, Mi Rae thought Kyung Suk wouldn't show up because he hadn't replied to any messages in their group chat. But to everyone's surprise, he showed up carrying a large TV without a box. Later on, Kyung Suk asked Mi Rae to go to the movies. Mi Rae couldn't say no because Kyung Suk asked her under the excuse that it was for a school assignment. The next day, she bought a new lip color before going out with Kyung Suk because she wanted to look her best for the guy she liked. At the cinema, Mi Rae actually brought out her notebook to do homework, surprising Kyung Suk, who hadn't expected her to take their study excuse seriously. Inside, she was nervous, constantly reminding herself that she was there to work on an assignment with Kyung Suk, not on a date. Meanwhile, Suah encountered her grandmother while out, but their relationship seemed strained as she left her grandmother behind on her way home. Unbeknownst to Suah, Yoon witnessed this interaction and had noticed Suah's behavior multiple times before. On the other hand, as for Kyung Suk and Mi Rae, their friendship seemed to be growing closer. After their movie outing, they were caught in the rain and shared an umbrella. At that time, Kyung Suk even walked Mi Rae home, mentioning that he had visited his mother in the hospital recently. Elsewhere, Mr. Sungwon decided to confront his ex-wife, Mrs. Yesung. He angrily accused her of brainwashing Kyung Suk, which he believed led Kyung Suk to run away from home. However, Mrs. Yesung denied these accusations, aware that her ex-husband had a tendency to twist the truth. After the date, Kyung Suk met with Woo Young in his room because he saw Woo Young's post on social media about needing a roommate. There, Kyung Suk offered to do housework instead of paying rent because he didn't have any money. Woo Young understood his situation and agreed to let Kyung Suk move in with him as a roommate. The next day, when Kyung Suk went over to Woo Young's house, he saw Mi Rae and her parents chatting with Woo Young downstairs. Shortly after, Mi Rae came up with some food, and that's when she learned that Kyung Suk was now living with Woo Young. Now, Kyung Suk was going through a tough time after leaving home. Sadly, he had no money for everyday needs and was starting to look for a part-time job to cover his expenses. Around that time, Suah offered Kyung Suk a job at her workplace. The next day, he went for an interview and, despite having no work experience, he got the job easily because of his good looks. However, Kyung Suk soon overheard some cafe employees worrying that one of them might get fired because they weren't as attractive and worked behind the scenes. Not wanting anyone to lose their job over this, Kyung Suk decided to cancel his contract to save the other employee's job. Suah saw him leaving the cafe and ran after him, frustrated that he didn't consider her feelings when he made his decision. The next day, Mrs. Yesung arranged to meet Mi Rae but first came across Kyung Suk chatting with a girl. She discovered that her son had moved and decided to invite both Mi Rae and Kyung Suk to go out for a meal together. Their bonding continued as they later went to Woo Young's house for drinks. At that moment, Mrs. Yesung was pleased to see that her son was beginning to appreciate having a mother in his life again, and she was proud of how handsome and mature he had become. On the other hand, Mi Rae was happy to see the growing closeness between mother and son, which made the evening even more enjoyable for her. However, she drank too much and ended up passing out. Then, Mrs. Yesung asked Kyung Suk to carry Mi Rae home. During the journey, Mrs. Yesung suggested that Kyung Suk move back into her house, but she didn't press the issue because she wanted to respect his feelings. She also gave him some money, suggesting he buy vitamins for Mi Rae the next day. Shortly after, Mrs. Yesung asked Kyung Suk if she could hug him, even if just for a moment. She had missed her son deeply but held back because of past mistakes. Feeling overjoyed by the reunion, Mrs. Yesung couldn't stop smiling all the way home. The next day, Mi Rae woke up feeling the effects of the previous night's drinking. She remembered having to be carried home by Kyung Suk after she passed out, which made her feel embarrassed. Although she wanted to avoid Kyung Suk, he invited her to go to campus together and advised her not to drink more than she could handle. Then, they ended up taking the same bus to campus. On the bus, a high school student who had been following Mi Rae greeted her and tried to ask about her Instagram account, but Kyung Suk intervened. The student then asked if Kyung Suk was Mi Rae's boyfriend, which led to mixed responses from them, confusing the student and causing him to leave. In that moment, Mi Rae felt a mix of confusion and happiness when Kyung Suk acted like her boyfriend. After their lab class, Mi Rae's group met to work on their report. Suwa, who was in charge of keeping the weekly reports as the secretary, lost a piece of the report, which upset her friends. Kyung Suk, the group's chairman, stepped in to help Suwa recall and document the results from the previous week's lab work. Later, Kyung Suk and Suwa went to Woo Young's room to collect the reports. Their closeness did not go unnoticed by their friends, and particularly by Mi Rae, who felt uncomfortable seeing Kyung Suk close to Suwa. Recently, Suwa had been boldly approaching Kyung Suk, even treating him to meals, which made Mi Rae uneasy. While they were eating, Suwa kept probing Kyung Suk about who he liked. Just then, they ran into Mi Rae and Woo Young. Soon after, Suwa went over to say hi to Mi Rae. At that moment, Kyung Suk asked Mi Rae if she wanted to go home together, but Mi Rae declined because she had a job interview lined up. Kyung Suk then asked Mi Rae if she could ask about any job openings at her interview place because he was interested in applying there too. At that time, Suwa felt jealous watching Kyung Suk and Mi Rae's friendly interaction. The next morning, before Kyung Suk went to work, Mrs. Yesung dropped by with some food for him. She even drove Mi Rae and Kyung Suk to work and planned to meet them later for lunch. While at work, Kyung Hee came to visit and asked him to have lunch with her. There, Mi Rae noticed how caring Kyung Suk was towards his sister, especially how he made sure to share food that his sister would like. Meanwhile, Mrs. Yesung, who had just arrived to join her children for lunch, saw her two kids returning from their lunch together. This was the first time she had seen Kyung Hee in a long while. At that moment, Mrs. Yesung followed Kyung Hee to the bus stop. There, Kyung Hee was shocked to see her mother, whom she hadn't expected to come back into her life. When Mrs. Yesung suggested they go to a cafe together, Kyung Hee couldn't hide her disappointment and annoyance at her mother for having left her in the past. When Mrs. Yesung visited her ex-husband Mr. Sungwon at his office, she found him busy preparing for an election with his team. Mrs. Yesung demanded that Mr. Sungwon tell the truth to their children about why they divorced. She also threatened to damage his reputation during the election if he didn't. After work, Mr. Sungwon told his daughter Kyung Hee the truth that their mother hadn't left because of an affair and her departure was unavoidable. Kyung Hee became angry after hearing her father's explanation, realizing that he had painted a false picture of her mother, making her think poorly of her. The next day, Kyung Suk was waiting for Mi Rae to leave with him. His attention often made her feel embarrassed. Mi Rae liked Kyung Suk but was hesitant because of her own insecurities and fears. Meanwhile, Suwa sent a message to Mi Rae, asking her to meet on campus. At that time, she wanted Mi Rae to help her find a job at her workplace because she was trying to get closer to Kyung Suk and win his affection. Suwa's tactics made Mi Rae feel insecure, especially when Suwa brought up Mi Rae's plastic surgery. At that moment, Mi Rae realized that Suwa didn't truly dislike her. Turns out, she felt threatened by Mi Rae's popularity among the students. After getting home from work, Kyung Suk received a call from his mom, who asked to meet him. During their meeting, Mrs. Yesung revealed the true reasons why she left her family and expressed deep regret, continually apologizing for her past actions. Touched by her sincerity, Kyung Suk's feelings softened, and he decided to forgive her, realizing she wasn't as bad as his father had made her out to be. Meanwhile, after her encounter with Sua, Mi Rae began to feel confused and insecure. Sua's comments made Mi Rae doubt herself and fear the worst about what might happen if she dated Kyung Suk. Despite these doubts, Mi Rae couldn't hide her feelings of affection and jealousy, especially when she saw Kyung Suk with another woman. Later, Kyung Suk found out that his sister, Kyung Hee, had left home. Once he learned her current address, he quickly went to bring her to a new, more comfortable house where he thought she would be happier. However, Kyung Hee was upset and refused to go. She was angry because she had been kept in the dark about the true reasons behind their mother's departure, which had been manipulated by their father. Despite Kyung Hee's resistance, Kyung Suk took her away, promising not to return her to their father's house. Kyung Suk's plan was to take his sister to meet their mother, hoping to help Kyung Hee reconcile with Mrs. Yesung just as he had started to do. At that time, Mrs. Yesung was at her office, but she quickly left when she heard that Kyung Hee would be staying at her house. She was all smiles on her way home, happy about the reunion, unlike Kyung Hee, who felt guilty about how she had previously treated her mother. Upon hearing her daughter's regrets, Kyung Hee clarified that she didn't actually hate her mother. When they got home, Mrs. Yesung cooked a special meal for them. Even though the food wasn't particularly tasty, Kyung Hee appreciated her mother's effort and ate it all, acknowledging her mother's attempt to make her feel welcome. Switching to Mi Rae, her mood had been sour since her encounter with Sua. When Mi Rae, Kyung Suk, Eunwoo, and Woo Young went out together, Mi Rae kept her distance from Kyung Suk and didn't interact much with him. After their outing, Eunwoo encouraged Mi Rae to be honest about her feelings, knowing that Mi Rae had developed feelings for Kyung Suk. The next day, Mi Rae and Kyung Suk went to work together. When they got there, they found out that Sua, who had just started working there as a new employee, was also present. After saying hello, Sua sent a message to Mi Rae suggesting she wanted some time alone with Kyung Suk during lunch. During their lunch, Sua acted in a way that put Kyung Suk in a bad mood. There, Kyung Suk realized that Sua had been pursuing him on purpose and understood her motives behind pretending to like him. Later, Kyung Suk went to the bathroom and encountered an office employee who had bothered him a few times before. This employee suddenly started insulting Mi Rae, which angered Kyung Suk. The confrontation escalated, and both Kyung Suk and the employee ended up at the police station. Despite being questioned by the police, the employee remained defiant and tried to blame Kyung Suk for the altercation. Meanwhile, Mi Rae, upset by what she heard, stepped in to defend Kyung Suk, who was being unfairly accused by the employee. She even threatened to sue the employee for alleged sexual harassment. When Mrs. Yesung heard that Kyung Suk was at the police station, she quickly went there and vouched for both Kyung Suk and Mi Rae, convincing the police to let them go. When Mi Rae got home, she broke down in tears when Mrs. Yesung asked her how she was feeling after the harassment incident. There, Mi Rae confessed that she wasn't okay, admitting that even after getting plastic surgery to stop the bullying, things didn't turn out as she had hoped. On the other hand, Kyung Suk, who overheard this, felt sad for her. He reassured Mi Rae, telling her not to believe what others said about her and promising that he would always be there to protect her. The next day, a new partnership started between the chemistry department and the perfume company, where they planned to hold summer practicums in the company's lab. Mrs. Yesung, who had connections with the department, even came to teach some courses. While everyone was in class expecting Kyung Suk to be there, especially since his mom was teaching, Kyung Suk was actually at a salon that had offered him a job. He wanted to make extra money so he could pay his full share of the rent to Woo Young. After he finished at the salon, Kyung Suk joined his mother's class, and his new hair color caught everyone's attention. Later, Mrs. Yesung set up a meeting with Mi Rae to check in on how Kyung Suk was doing emotionally and mentally. At that time, Mi Rae was still thinking about the previous night when Kyung Suk asked if she had feelings for him. There, she told him that it didn't seem right for someone like her to be with someone as popular as him. Instead of discussing her own problems, Mi Rae talked more about her feelings towards Mrs. Yesung. Upon hearing that, she told Mi Rae that there was nothing wrong with her and encouraged her to be honest and follow her heart. Meanwhile, during a practicum class at the company, all the participants were trying to follow the instructions, but many were overwhelmed by the strong scents of various perfumes. At that time, Mi Rae was the only one who successfully guessed the perfume combinations correctly, which annoyed Suwa since she felt outdone by Mi Rae. After class, everyone went to a bar to hang out, but Kyung Suk chose to go home instead. On his way, he got caught in the rain and bought 2 umbrellas, planning to give one to Mi Rae. However, his plan was interrupted when Suwa hugged him in an attempt to make Mi Rae jealous. Suwa's action successfully caught Mi Rae's attention. Seeing this, Mi Rae left the bar and walked away in the rain, heartbroken over seeing Kyung Suk so close to Suwa. Kyung Suk, noticing Mi Rae leaving, quickly moved Suwa aside and followed Mi Rae into the rain. Kyung Suk was puzzled by Mi Rae's sudden change of attitude and confessed that he liked her and wanted to date her. However, she turned him down, explaining that she didn't want to deal with negative talk from others about her dating a handsome guy like him. The next day, Kyung Suk and Mi Rae bumped into each other unexpectedly. There, he told Mi Rae that he would wait for as long as it took for her to be ready to accept him. His heart sank when he saw Mi Rae and Woo Young returning from dinner together, looking close. During their dinner, Woo Young confessed his feelings to Mi Rae and shared why he liked her. However, Mi Rae felt she couldn't accept his feelings because she believed her beauty was not natural, but the result of plastic surgery. At that time, Woo Young asked Mi Rae to think over his feelings, but she quickly turned him down, admitting she liked someone else. Woo Young understood she was referring to Kyung Suk and encouraged her not to give up on him. On the other hand, Kyung Suk, watching from a distance, saw Mi Rae and Woo Young together and felt a surge of jealousy. Unable to face seeing Woo Young, Kyung Suk chose not to go home and instead spent the night at Eugene bar, drowning his feelings in 7 bottles of soju. The following day at the perfume laboratory, Kyung Suk showed up looking pale and unwell. An assistant manager noticed and suggested he take a break. Mrs. Ye Sung saw his condition and gave him a glass of honey water to help him recover from his hangover and restore his strength. During lunch, Mi Rae overheard Suwa expressing her worries about Kyung Suk and confessing to her friends that she really liked him. This surprised Mi Rae because Suwa, one of the most popular students, was now her rival. Meanwhile, Wonho showed his displeasure and left the cafeteria, thinking Suwa was just playing games. But there, Suwa's friends encouraged her to get together with Kyung Suk as soon as possible. However, Eunwoo was taken aback by Suwa's plans and suspected that Suwa might have been the reason behind the recent breakup of Tae-hee and Tae-young. Eunwoo had seen Suwa and Tae-young getting out of the same taxi and looking very close the previous night. For the first time, Mi Rae discovered that Suwa was going to extreme lengths to maintain her figure, as she often made herself vomit after eating. Suwa denied Mi Rae's accusations, claiming she was just not feeling well. This reminded Mi Rae of her own past efforts to look perfect. Amidst spreading rumors, Kyung Suk clarified to Suwa that he had never been interested in her romantically and confessed that he preferred Mi Rae. Meanwhile, Mi Rae decided to confront Suwa because she understood Suwa's intentions. Suwa wanted to appear popular and desirable, worthy of dating the most handsome guy on campus. Her actions were actually aimed at making Mi Rae feel inferior and unworthy compared to her. In the evening, Woo Young came home very drunk, upset because Mi Rae had rejected him the day before. This news relieved Kyung Suk, who didn't want to waste any more time. He decided to talk to Mi Rae to find out exactly what her relationship with Woo Young was. During their conversation, Mi Rae bravely told Kyung Suk that she had rejected Woo Young because she had feelings for Kyung Suk. That day, they officially decided to be dating. Kyung Suk then held Mi Rae's hand tightly as they walked home, both feeling very happy. The next morning, Woo Young woke up surprised to find that Kyung Suk had prepared food and vitamins for him. On the other hand, Woo Young, a bit confused about the previous night, asked him if he had been a nuisance because Kyung Suk was being unusually kind to him. After they started dating, Kyung Suk became more attentive towards Mi Rae, but they agreed to keep their relationship a secret from their friends. When Suwa continued trying to get close to Kyung Suk, Mi Rae finally revealed that he was now her boyfriend. Suwa pretended to be happy for them and congratulated Mi Rae. Although Kyung Suk was concerned that Suwa might spread the news, Mi Rae was confident that Suwa would keep it to herself to maintain her pride and avoid getting hurt. During their first date, Mi Rae felt uncomfortable when she saw Tae-hee and a friend at the same restaurant. Kyung Suk noticed this and tried to distract the two friends to give Mi Rae some privacy. Meanwhile, Suah was meeting with Tae-young, who wanted to give her a necklace as a thank you for always listening to him. However, Suah declined the gift and told Tae-young not to expect too much from their relationship. At that time, Eunwoo saw this exchange between them. Elsewhere, Mr. Sungwon was concerned because Kyung Hee's social media posts showed a lavish lifestyle, which contradicted his campaign's message of simplicity. The next day, unable to keep it a secret any longer, Kyung Suk told Woo Young that he and Mi Rae were dating. Although it hurt him, Woo Young concealed his feelings about the news. Meanwhile, Mrs. Yesung was pleased to see Kyung Suk getting close to Mi Rae, as she had always liked Mi Rae. On the other hand, Mr. Sungwon approached Kyung Hee and asked her to remove all her luxurious lifestyle videos from social media because they conflicted with his campaign's theme. After practice, Kyung Suk asked Mi Rae if she wanted to walk home together. On their way, she found out that her roommate had gone home to visit her parents. There, Kyung Suk hinted that he hoped Mi Rae would invite him over to her place. At that time, Mi Rae was surprised when they arrived to find her parents already there, having come to drop off some food for her. On the other hand, Kyung Suk, who had gone to buy drinks, had to wait outside until Mi Rae's parents left. Once her parents had gone, Mi Rae and Kyung Suk spent the evening at her boarding house making aromatherapy candles. After thinking it over, they decided to tell their friends that they were dating. Their friends were thrilled, thinking Kyung Suk and Mi Rae made a perfect couple. Meanwhile, Suah faced trouble when someone secretly took photos of her in revealing clothes and posted them online. At first, she accused Won-ho of being responsible and demanded he delete everything he had posted. However, it turned out the photo Won-ho took was one he thought was quite modest and far from provocative. Besides that, Suah's habit of making herself vomit after meals was accidentally discovered by her friends. Even though Mi Rae tried to keep it a secret, the truth came out, and Suah left the scene feeling humiliated. With all these problems piling up, Suah was feeling very low. One day, Eunwoo invited Suah to meet at a cafe because she knew Suah had been going through a tough time. During their conversation, Suah revealed that she really disliked Mi Rae because of her successful plastic surgery. Meanwhile, Won-ho asked Woo Young for help in handling the rumors surrounding a controversial photo of Suah. At his home, Kyung Suk noticed his father was stressed because his career was being negatively affected by his daughter's behavior. Meanwhile, Mi Rae's relationship with Kyung Suk was gradually becoming more accepted by her parents, who appreciated that Kyung Suk was a well-behaved and handsome student. Ever since he became friends with Mi Rae in middle school, Woo Young began efforts to take down the website displaying Suah's photo and sought assistance from higher authorities because the photo had been taken with a hidden camera. Suah was still feeling very uneasy, even in her sleep. At that time, Woo Young wanted her to testify at the police station as a victim of the hidden camera to help find the person who spread the photo. However, Suah refused that help because she did not want more people to become aware of the rumors. One day, Woo Young was checking his social media when he stumbled upon a post warning that something bad was going to happen to Suah that night. Worried, he tried to contact her, but her phone was off. Meanwhile, Eunwoo, who lived near Suah, couldn't help because she was with Mi Rae and Kyung Suk at the time. It turned out that a college friend named Dongwon was confronting Suah, upset because he felt that Suah had been leading him on. Suddenly, screams from Suah's house sent Kyung Suk, Mi Rae, and Eunwoo rushing over. At that moment, Suah was terrified, thinking Dongwon had thrown a harmful liquid on her face. In her panic, Suah almost did the unthinkable, believing her face was ruined. However, Mi Rae managed to calm her down and help her, which only irritated Suah more because she felt Mi Rae now is better than her. Suah was struggling with the fact that Mi Rae, who had undergone plastic surgery, seemed happier than her. After this incident, Suah began to see that Mi Rae's kindness was genuine. She apologized to Mi Rae and decided to take some time off from college to get her thoughts together. Later, Suah met with Kyung Suk to confess that she had never truly liked him. She was just testing how much men were swayed by her looks. Meanwhile, Mr. Sungwon and Mrs. Yesung are starting to fix their relationship, thinking about getting back together for the sake of their children's future. At the same time, Mi Rae and Kyung Suk are also more open about showing their affection for each other, not worrying about what others might think. Soon after, they decided to go out to a restaurant, where Mi Rae planned a birthday surprise for Kyung Suk. She remembered his birthday and sang happy birthday to him, making the day extra special. There, Mi Rae gave Kyung Suk a sweater as a birthday gift, and they took a selfie together to remember the moment. Later, they went to the park to spend more time together. Then, Kyung Suk told Mi Rae that she made him believe in love and even marriage. In a sweet moment, Kyung Suk and Mi Rae kissed each other's foreheads and hugged tightly. They started wearing matching sweaters at school, which caught their friends' attention. At that time, Mi Rae wondered if getting matching sweaters was a good idea, but Kyung Suk reassured her that it was great. Then, they ended their day walking hand in hand in their couple sweaters, looking at each other lovingly. And that's how the film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you want to be pretty and skinny, don't eat and throw up your food like Suwa. It's not healthy and you'll be hungry.